Hello and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I am going to be taking you through a trunk show of quilts. Hopefully it will give you a little bit of inspiration and some new ideas. My plan had been to do part 2 of this series, Scrap Up Your Stash with Me. I'd started that last week, and I know lots of you are really enjoying that, and I was going to continue with that this week. However, last weekend, Saturday and Sunday here in Rockford, we got some horrendous rainstorms, and just about everyone in town is having water in the basements, and we also got a lot of water in the basement on the other side of our basement. So I have been working with my husband quite extensively on that project all week long. So my series of Scrapping Up Your Stash will be coming, but give me a week or two to get back to that. I'm going to be sharing a series of photos of 50 different quilts, and I'll be talking to you about them and sharing the names of them and a number for each of them. Hopefully you'll sit back with a pencil and paper and jot down those that might be your favorites. I hope you'll leave comments below on the numbers and the video or the quilts that you're most interested in. And I'm also going to have links in the description box below. I'm going to have a whole list of every quilt that I'm talking about today and sharing with you. And it will have a link to either my website, if there's a pattern out there, and if you're interested in that, you can follow that link to my website, or there will be a link to the playlist or the YouTube video itself so that you can find how I put that quilt together on my YouTube channel. So there's lots of information out there for you. It's in the description box. And I will also include that out on my website under today's blog. So if you're not able to access the description box below, no worries. Go out to my website, go to my blog tab, and go to the blog that corresponds to this video, and you'll be able to access that PDF. Now, I will say that there are different types of quilts I'm going to be sharing with you today. I do have lectures and workshops that correspond to either my Speedy Solutions, my Scrappy quilts, my template quilts, and my art quilts. So you're going to see all of that in this. I do have many, many more quilts that I can possibly do another trunk show next week or later on. We'll see when I'll get to that. But there's so many other quilts that I'll be able to share with you. But today we'll start with these 50, and it'll just be a few minutes. I think you'll enjoy just going through and watching. Hopefully you'll get some inspiration or an idea will come to your mind, and you'll be able to make a quilt that's your very own, maybe from an inspiration of one of these quilts. So quilt number 1 is the striped pumpkin. You saw this quilt put together in a video, and I'll have a link to that here on my description box. You'll find that. But this is a pattern that I've put together. I also have a link for the pattern. It's done with strips. I have some wonderful fall colored strips that I put together to create the pumpkins, as well as the fence rail block. So there's 2 blocks involved with that one. Quilt number 2 is my beginning quilt class sampler quilt. And this is where I taught a series of classes, 13 different classes where we learned different blocks, and then we did the border and put the quilt together. I've got a playlist of that, so make sure you check that out if you are a beginning quilter. If you know somebody who is, it would be a great opportunity for them to learn to quilt. Quilt number 3 is peppermint candy. I have not yet put together a pattern or a video on this one. That's something I'll need to get done for you, but it's actually one block that is tilted across the rows. There are 4 rows there, 16 blocks, and it actually creates what looks like 2 different blocks. Quilt number 4 is Blue Magic. It is put together using the orange peel block and a magic circle block. A real fun block to put together. It is a bit more challenging. There are some Y seams in there. Quilt number 5 is called Two's Company Christmas Quilt. And this quilt I made using 2 blocks from my block of the month from my Patterns of Life 2017 series. So if you go into my blog and search for that, Patterns of Life, you'll be able to find a variety of different patterns, and 2 of those I used for this Christmas quilt. The 2 blocks I used were King's Crown and Rising Star. Quilt number 6 it's a mystery quilt. I do a number of mystery quilts for my customers every spring, every fall. The patterns, the videos, the tutorials, all of it is out on my website and on my YouTube channel, so it's all available for you. This one was done in the spring of 2021. It's called Raining Hearts, and it's a Hearts and Solomon's puzzle block and border. A real fun one to put together. Quilt number 7 is I Love America, my flag quilt. In fact, you would have just recently saw a YouTube video tutorial on this quilt and how I put it together. And I do have a PDF pattern, which I have linked below. It's a really simple quilt to put together. There's a little bit of applique, but it's a great way to use up your strips and goes together real fast. Quilt number 8 is Scrappy Trails. This is a pattern that I have out on my website. It is a pattern that is pieced, it's set on point, and there is applique in the borders. It's a really great quilt to use up your scrap stash. So I'd check that out. I do have links below to my store, and you can check that pattern out. Number 9 is my 2023 block of the month, which was the Friendship Bouquet quilt. And a number of you joined me on that. I've got the pattern out there for you and the playlist. There are videos for each and every part of that series. So you have that accessible to you. It's a great quilt. I hope that you'll try it. Quilt number 10 is a quilt that I put together a number of years ago. I call it the 4th of July log cabin quilt. The log cabins in the stars are all quite small. It was one I designed in EQ8. Quilt number 11 is another mystery quilt of mine. This was done in the fall of 2021. It's called Purple Passion, and this one is a real scrappy one. I also did one that was predominantly purples, but you can certainly use your scraps whenever you're working with any of my mystery quilt patterns. In fact, that's what I like to teach, is to teach you how to pull scraps from your own stash. I do also like to teach a pieced border whenever I do a mystery quilt. My students don't necessarily use that border, and that's fine, but I do like to teach that, so it's available for you. Quilt number 12 is Bennington. It's a smaller wall quilt, which I often hang in my kitchen. It includes two blocks, it includes one block, the magic circle block, and the piano key border. Really simple one to put together. Quilt number 13 is Fall Baskets. It's using templates. We're using the Dresden and the tumbler for the vases. And there are applique Dresden flowers in the tumbler vases, and there are also Dresden flowers in each of the four corners. Quilt number 14 is Baskets Squared. This is a quilt that I made many, many, many years ago, and I simply used scraps of darks and lights. It is pieced baskets, and there are also applique handles. Very simple to make, lots of fun, and I did some beading in the borders. Quilt number 15 is my apple core quilt. I hand-pieced the center of this. Took me probably 15 to 20 years. I put this on the long arm and quilted it on my long arm. I used a lot of scrappy red fabrics for the backing, and I used a faux binding on this quilt. Quilt number 16 is my 2015 Illinois Shop Hop quilt. I took patterns from 8 different quilt shops in Northern Illinois, and I created this pattern and then submitted it, and I actually won a prize at the quilt shop where I brought it. Quilt number 17 is my sampler quilt. It uses 25 of the 52-week series Scrappy blocks that we created. Many of you probably joined me as I created the 52-week series of Scrappy blocks. I do have a playlist below that you can follow to find all of those patterns. You can print them out, save them to your computer. You'll always have a wonderful idea for a Scrappy block. And then I also have the Quilt As You Go technique playlist included. So it teaches you my techniques that I like to use for quilting as you go. Number 18 is the small Christmas tree quilt. It's sort of an art quilt. It was a fun one to put together. It uses a lot of templates, the triangles and the half hexies for the entire quilt. And there is a video that I've attached below. It will show you how I put that together. Number 19 is Oh Christmas Tree wall quilt. It's a little bit larger. It's a great wall quilt, a beautiful one to have for Christmas. I do have a pattern for that out on my website, and I also have a YouTube tutorial that teaches you how to create that and how to stitch the triangles in that. And you can do that either on your long arm or on your domestic machine. So check out that video that will show you that. Quilt number 20 is Christmas Wishes. It's a wall quilt, a table runner, and a full-size quilt for your Christmas decor in your bedroom. So you want to check out that pattern. I have that out on my website. Quilt number 21 is Caribbean Sunset. And this was created. It's an art quilt that I created from a photo that I took when my husband and I were in the Caribbean. And the techniques used here were glue-based. I did everything in glue basting. I didn't use any fuse. I used glue-based for all of the different fabrics. I used dryer sheets for the foam in the sea there. I used a tulle overlay, and it was really quite fun. My applique and quilting pretty much took place all at one time. Number 22 is an English paper piece sampler. It's a small wall quilt, and I really enjoyed putting that one together. Quilt number 23 is Storm at Sea, and this was one that I put together using orphan templates and pieces. I always encourage my students to gather all of your orphan blocks and your orphan pieces, bring them together in one location in your sewing room. That way you'll know that you have them and you're going to be able to use them. And that's what I did here. I was able to create this art quilt here using those pieces on black fabric, and then I really had fun with some free motion quilting all over the negative space. Quilt number 24 is Pyramid. This was actually a UFO that sat around for many years before I got back to it, but it's pieced triangles and strips, and then I appliqued it onto a black background. So I encourage you to grab those UFOs that you might have and get those finished. Quilt number 25 is Freedom. I designed this pattern a few years ago. It is set on point. It has applique, asymmetrical Dresdens, and flowers and eagle applique as well. There's a pieced diamond border, and this quilt was featured in the 2025 AQS Quilt Art Engagement Calendar. In fact, quilt number 26 is a Fall Harvest Table Runner. This is a pattern that I will be working on. It's not completely written yet. It's all applique blocks. But quilt number 27 is a paper-pieced pumpkin centerpiece. And I actually have a video teaching you how to do that. So I've got that link below. You want to check that out. Quilt number 28 is Tangled Stars. And this is a traveling quilt in the Great Wisconsin Quilt Show from 2021 in the Art Deco exhibit. So it was traveling there for a year. The quilt itself was pieced together, and then I did a long arm quilting on it. It was all hand-guided free motion. I did pretty much feathers and the star itself, and then ruler work on the outside. Here is one of my ladybug quilts. This is quilt number 29, Ladybug. And I do have workshops that many quilt guilds across America and Canada have taken. And I've got it in a couple of different colorways. So you might see another colorway here, I think, in a couple of pictures. But here is one. I've got the pattern linked below. Number 30 is an adorable quilt. I call him my Mr. Frog wall quilt. He's one of my new designs. I am working on the pattern. It's not ready yet, but keep your eye out on my website and you'll see it coming up soon. It's an applique pattern and a little bit of piecing. Very quick, very easy, and just a lot of fun. And here's another color variation for Ladybug. This is number 31, Ladybug. And it's just a different background color and some different types of flowers that values and colors that I've used in the flowers. Number 32 is Tulips and Sunshine. It's another really new design of mine. I will be putting together the pattern, and it will get up on my website. So again, keep your eye out on my website for that. It is an applique and pieced quilt. Quite fun, very easy to do. 33 is Zinnias in Bloom. This is the spring version of this quilt. This is also a very popular workshop of mine across the country at different guilds. So you'll see the pattern listed below. There's a link, so you'll want to check that out. Number 34 is Sleepy Sunflower Art Quilt, and this is the fall version, and you'll see the pattern link there in the description box. This is also a very popular workshop that I have across the country. Many guilds enjoy putting this quilt together. Number 35 is the Sleepy Sunflower Art Quilt. That is the summer version. And when my students put them together, I really enjoy seeing all of the different colorways that they'll use to create this quilt. Number 36 is Zinnias in Bloom quilts. This is another workshop quilt of mine. This is the Christmas version, and I have linked the pattern to a lot of these that I do workshops on, so you can find those patterns linked below. Number 37 is Bouquet of Flowers for Mom. This is a quilt that is a fusible art quilt that I designed. It was a traveling quilt with the 2020 Great Wisconsin Quilt Show Botanical Exhibit. And I have a link there where you can see my traveling quilts out on my website. Number 38 is Lacy Trees. This is a stripped piece trees quilt. It's got an applique border. In fact, there are 3 different border options in the pattern, and I've linked the pattern below. I did use a lot of lace that I had on hand to create these beautiful lacy trees. There is a video also, a YouTube video that will show you how I did each of those blocks and put this quilt together. 39 is Holiday Snowman, and this is a pattern that I designed a number of years ago. You can find this pattern out on my website. It is simple log cabins on each side. I guess it would be the courthouse step cabin block, and then the Holiday Snowman in the center. And it's fun to do him in wool, but you don't have to. You can certainly just use some beautiful quilting cottons to create him as well. Number 40 is Black, White, and Red All Over. This is an art quilt that I designed for a coming contest here this coming fall. And it represents my granddaughter, Danny, and you can see her seated in the bottom left corner. And she's reading. She is a book lover, so this was designed with her in mind. Number 41 is Fall Fields Art Quilt. You're going to see a number of art quilts now, and these are all just designs that I have made. I simply just either sketch out a design or a landscape using fabrics, or maybe I sketch it on paper first and then I put it on fabrics. Whichever, I just really, truly enjoy putting together landscape quilts and art quilts like this. And this one shows the trees, the mountains, and the fields, as well as the birds in the sky. Right, number 42 is Man on Skis, and this is an art quilt that I designed. He was you could Google some free clip art and just find some things that you're interested in. As long as the clip art is free and doesn't have any royalties, it's something that you can use. You can enlarge it. I found some designs that I put in the 4 corners, and I just had fun making a wintry scene there with this man on skis. Number 43 is Deep Blue Sea. This is an art quilt that I designed. It came from a picture. Again, when my husband and I were in the Caribbean, I had taken a picture, and so I created this art quilt based upon that picture. And just have the deep blue sea in the background. There's some foliage in the front there, and then you see the sand and all of the shells. And then, of course, the palm trees. For some reason, often they grow sideways. I saw a lot of that, so I had to include a palm tree that was growing sideways. Number 44 is Snow Children. This is another art quilt that I designed. You're going to see this pine tree on the right and the tree in the back. They are free clip arts that I had gotten, and I've either enlarged or reduced them in size, and I've used those templates on a variety of different quilts, different art quilts that I've put together. I have a house in the background there with the smoke billowing out of the chimney, and then the Snow Children. You can find free clip art out there if you Google it. Make sure there's no royalty on it, and then just have fun building your little Snow Children or whatever piece that you're working on, but building it from the back toward the front, and then you can apply it to your art quilt. This would be a fun one. I'd love to teach it sometime. If you're interested in it, let me know in the comments or email me through my website. Right, number 45 is Penguins on Ice. This is another art quilt that I've designed. I used a snowflake, if you will, and I enlarged it quite large, and it's done in pink, so it's representing the very cold sun on the ice. And so that pink snowflake, very large one, represents the sun. There are some other snowflakes there. Again, you see those same pine trees, and then 3 of the penguins on the ice. Number 46 is Santa and the Reindeer art quilt. And this, again, you're going to see that pine tree again and that tall tree in the background. They're different sizes, but I love to use them a lot. You can also find free, royalty-free Santas and reindeer, all kinds of animals, bugs, whatever kind of art quilt you want to put together. And so I just had fun positioning my elements all across this quilt. And you'll notice in a lot of my art quilts that the elements actually overlap into the border. Number 47 is Silent Night. This is another art quilt that I designed. These are the deer in this beautiful snowy night. It's a midnight sky with all the stars and the great big star shining down upon them. Fun trees that I have cut out of some, actually it was an upholstery fabric. It worked perfectly for these trees. I really enjoyed putting that together. Okay, 48 is a template quilt. This is called Sunny Dresden's, and I have a number of different colorways. I think I'm only showing you one in this trunk show, but this is a very popular workshop that I offer to gills across the country. The pattern is available out there on my website, and you're working with 4 different size Dresdens in this quilt. And I've had students make this into queen size quilts. So there's so much you can do with it. 49 is Twinkling Stars, and this is, again, using templates. These are the triangle templates that you put together in rows. So there are no Y seams in this quilt pattern. You'll find my pattern out on my website, which has the paper template that you can use, or you can also purchase a rhombus on my shop out on my website. And it's a very fast, easy quilt to put together. It's all done in triangles, in rows, and you simply can pull scraps from your stash and create this wonderful starry quilt. And finally, number 50 is my shield ferns. Now, this is a paper-pieced pattern. I don't yet have that out on my website, but eventually I will get that out there. This quilt was featured in the 2024 AQS of Paducah, the Quilt Art Engagement Calendar. So it was exciting to have that out there. But the entire quilt, the center as well as the borders, are all paper-pieced. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this trunk show of 50 quilts. Hopefully you'll also comment below. Let me know what number or name of the quilt or quilts that you are really interested in. Maybe you'd like to take portions of a couple of them and make your own design. I would love to see that. So make sure you post it out on my Facebook group page, and I'll link that below as well. So until next time, happy quilting.